Timcast IRL will be live in Miami with Patrick Bet David, Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and Luke Rudkowski. Join us there. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the description below or by going to timcast.com.
It's interesting you say, the U.S. thinks it strategically helps us to be funding this war or whatever. But I would kind of make a counter argument to that, which is in many ways we pushed Russia and Ukraine into this spot. You kind of look at the history of the Minsk Accords and stuff over the years. The United States has stepped in repeatedly and told Ukraine, don't negotiate with Russia. They kept fanning the flames of this. But then what has happened now as a consequence of that is Russia now in the moment may look kind of stupid. Hey, look, their invasion isn't going so well. Haha. But what's long term happening is Russia is being backed now into the corner of China, and they're all together now and meeting, and there's an alliance there. It's obviously forming. People say, oh, that's inevitable because they're both authoritarians. That's not true at all. When you look at the history of Russia and China, there's a reason why they've actually been a little bit more isolated, and Putin's been nervous about going into China's hands, even when they were both communist, right? The Soviet Union and Mao's China didn't even get along. And I think Putin's been in this position the past few decades where he's not sure, do I want to be Western or Eastern, tries to play both sides. We could have potentially, if not an ally, at least neutralized a very strong threat in having Russia not on the side of China and isolating China. But instead, what we've done through the whole course of basically, in many ways, I would argue, inciting this war and definitely fueling the flames of it, is now long term, we have a very powerful axis that we constructed ourselves and now are going to have to fight at once. And
maybe they want it.
Yeah.
Maybe they want it. They create a problem.
Yeah.
That gives them a crisis that they can use to exploit and implement new policies, plans.
Maybe, but I'm going to just err on the side of stupidity over malice on this one. I agree. I think that the argument that a weak Russia makes a strong U.S. is flawed, and I would argue with any defense contractor, anyone in the administration, anyone that wants to talk, because a weakened Russia becomes a desperate Russia, and a desperate Russia has nuclear weapons. That's not good for American sovereignty.
A strong Russia has nuclear weapons too, though.
Unless we are not concerned with their nuclear weapons for some reason.
Maybe, yeah, that's true. And also, a weakened Russia seeks allies elsewhere, and we don't want that. Doesn't make a strong America.
This is a little bit of a non sequitur, but I heard that Musk is contracting with the feds to build Starshield or something, which is essentially the Iron Dome in the U.S.
Starshield.
I don't know if this is true. It's a rumor that I heard, so I don't have any information on it.
Oh, that's from a year ago.
So
SpaceX unveils Starshield, a military variation of Starlink satellites.
Secure satellite networks.
Well, a digital Iron Dome.
Okay, so then this is just an internet system?
Oh, it's a security system. Well, it says security. Does that mean like laser defense?
Well, I imagine it could be if you've got multiple satellites that are.
It's just Starlink for the government.
Okay.
It's an isolated network so that it protects the government.
Yeah.
Starshield. Dude, defending your satellites. I mean, in the near future, you send things up there that can
Space
hit
Force.
with bullets.
I mean, the thing is, if you can get
drones.
if you can get a constellation of satellites similar to Starlink, then you can identify missiles that are being shot from anywhere in the world. You can pick them up as they're getting off the ground, and the idea is hopefully you can shoot them down before they get over the U.S. They have big lasers that they put in C-5As that can shoot down missiles, and so if you can get them before they actually try to deliver their MIRVs or whatever, that might be part of it. So I mean, this is
low orbit satellite is the vehicle for these laser interception systems.
Mm-hmm. So,
but how would they collect and store enough power? Even with satellite, to store enough power for a directed energy weapon it's insane. It's going to be like years of charging up.
I imagine that
they can even hold it.
I imagine that they're just to identify and notify the U.S. that there is some kind
ground
of
level?
something going on. Yeah, when it takes off, and then like I said, you put a C5 in the air with a big chemical laser in it, and they because you can scramble if it's got 30 minutes, you can scramble a C5 in 10 if you have them on standby. Get them in the air and get them before they're.
I kind of feel like they'd probably just go the traditional Iron Dome or THAAD method, which is launching rockets at rockets.
Should be, or could be, yeah.
I mean, maybe lasers is the last resort, but the range on them is not going to be strong enough.
The range on the lasers?
Yeah, I mean, by the time there's enough power in the laser, at least based on what we understand, the nuke is already in a very damaging radius of whatever the target is. But if they have these laser systems, strategically placed far outside of civilian or military areas, okay, then perhaps. But if we're talking about a MIRV from Russia, which is going to be in the stratosphere, I don't know, man. Send a plane to intercept it and hope that the laser mounted on,
That's what I think it is. I know that they do. They have tested lasers on, mounted in big cargo planes because they're massive and they take up a lot of space, and they're chemical lasers, if I understand correctly. But again, I'm not an expert at all, so this is me relating what I've read. I imagine that would make Russia less of a threat, but I still don't think that.
I wouldn't trust it anyway.
No, well, I mean, it's
World War III. You're gonna count on your survival. Hey, the government built some lasers. They're gonna. I don't think it would happen.
Hosted payloads. It says on its website, SpaceX says Starshield will have an initial focus on 3 areas: imagery, communications, and quote hosted payloads. The third of which effectively offers government customers the company's satellite bus, the body of the spacecraft, as a flexible platform. Well, what does that mean? Like it's going to carry something?
Hosted payload sounds like a virus.
Well,
that they're going to send.
A payload is usually some kind of weapon. If you're talking about the payload on a nuclear weapon, that's the warhead would be the payload. So I don't know exactly what.
Hey, look, if the U.S.
this
goes
does
full low orbit ion cannon, I'm not complaining.
Right.
This does
I mean, I
remind
actually
me a lot.
but it's funny.
This does remind me a lot of the Star Wars stuff in the 1980s. So I wonder if this is actually a serious idea or just bluffing like it was in the 80s, obviously with Reagan.
I don't know.
He had some, for people not familiar, he had some crazy plan with lasers,
SDI.
whatever it is.
It
Yeah,
was SDI.
they called it Star Wars
Defense
as a joke.
Initiative,
Yeah,
SDI.
to shoot down Russian nukes, and the whole thing was bluff. But the point of it, I guess, intuitively was what?
I thought it was just that they didn't have the technology at the time.
Well, I think part of the reason they talked it up that way was because they wanted to get the Soviet Union to run up their
Spend
military
money,
budget and basically blow up. Yeah,
Now they have hypersonic,
economically.
the hypersonic weaponry. I don't know enough about it.
It's actually slower.
It's slower than regular intercontinental. Oh, why is it touted as indefensible then? They're like, we can't shoot down our hypersonic stuff.
Because they're talking about missiles, whereas an ICBM actually goes into orbit, and to get into orbit, it's 20,000 miles an hour is how fast you have to go, something like that, to break Earth orbit. Whereas hypersonic would be, what's the speed of sound is 750 miles an hour. Or
It's
something like that.
I think they travel 5 times speed of sound. It has something to do with hypersonic missiles travel low, closer to the Earth, and are harder to track and respond to. So with ICBMs, they go up, they go high, they go fast. But the higher it goes with the curvature of the Earth, the more range we have for detecting them. Whereas hypersonics are low and slow.
The escape velocity of Earth is 33 times the speed of sound. So a hypersonic missile is actually significantly slower than an ICBM.
Okay.
But yeah,
Hypersonic missiles. So this is check it out. Here you go. Yep. This is from a couple days ago. This is amazing. Hypersonic missile weapons are super fast. So you can see ballistic missiles, hypersonic and cruise. Hypersonic stays low and is outside radar detection and then it's too late.
Yeah, this says
Boom.
the U.S. Navy is developing directed energy systems as a potential defense against hypersonic.
It's a cool graphic.
And that's military
basically
aerospace.com talks about the Navy's laser weapon defense. And if they're talking about laser weapon defense openly, then they've probably got some nasty laser weapon defense. Unless it's like a Star Wars bluff, like you were saying earlier.
This is basically what my point was. You can see right here in the graphic. They don't show the graphic that I watched a while ago about this shows the curvature of the Earth and explains why radar detection is limited. And it's because as the Earth curves, the radar goes out. And so there's certain areas where you're not going to see anything at the ground level, and the hypersonics track closer to the ground and then slam to the target before you realize it.
the Boeing YAL-1 airborne laser tested weapon system was a megawatt-class chemical oxygen iodine laser mounted inside a modified military Boeing 747-400F. It was designed as a missile defense system to destroy tactical ballistic missiles while in boost phase. I don't know if it's actually... I don't know that it's being used as tested.
So apparently these hypersonics go 20 times the speed of sound. So maybe...
Oh, snap. Wow. So they could break
anywhere on the Earth in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
In less than an hour. Holy crap. In less than 1 hour. Man.
That's wild.
You know, one day there's going to be like some prominent personality who's leading the charge against war or something. And then before anyone even realizes it, there's going to be a crater where his house used to be. And it's going to be, we have no idea what happened. No one can see it.
I mean, look, Russia it's pretty clear that Russia shot down that Prigozhin guy. They shot down Prigozhin. Yeah, they shot down his plane. So I imagine that kind of technology in the hands of a regime like Russia or some other less than democratic regime would do just that. Smoke someone that is irritating them without.
Blow up a
democratic
16-year-old
regimes
in
can do it too.
a
But what if Starshield is actually radar detection from space to track hypersonics?
That's what I imagine.
So take a look at this, right? They're showing right here in this graphic that the signal, the wave, is coming from the ground and going up, and the radar can't detect beyond this angle. What if you had a radar from space? Then you'd have the inverse. Then it would be able to see everything happening.
Like a spider web, anything that comes in, you can pinpoint it with thousands of satellites up there. You know exactly where it is.
Now you've got space radar, in which case these hypersonics you can track. I like how the cruise missile just doesn't make it anywhere. It's just like 14 minutes, it barely moves.
When was the cruise missile invented? How long ago was that?
Oh goodness, I don't know.
I wonder. I wonder if that was that's probably still after rocketry. I mean V2 and
70s, I imagine, because they were using cruise missiles. Cruise missiles were the first thing I remember seeing when in the first Iraq War. I was 15 years old, and like they'd started shoving cruise missiles down Saddam Hussein's neck, and it was impressive, as a kid to be like, whoa, that's actually happening,
The missile that Trump dropped while he was president, the mother of all
Moab.
Was that a cruise missile?
No, that is a gravity bomb.
Okay.
They call it's a thermobaric bomb. So it actually, when it hits the ground or when it detonates, first it shoots out a bunch of gas that blows up.
Oh, interesting.
So it ignites the gas.
It looks like the first cruise missile was invented during World War I by the Americans, but it wasn't used.
Really?
And during the interwar period, not many people were working on, but Germany went hard on the rockets.
And I could be wrong about the way that it works. I could be thinking of a different thing.
Sure.
But I know the Moab is it's the biggest munition that is not a nuclear weapon.
And to clarify, a cruise missile specifically is a missile that's supposed to hit a target on land. That's the point of it. That's why they call it a cruise missile, I guess.
They were launching
V2, the vengeance weapon.
The V stands for vengeance. The V2 rocket.
It's the Vergeltungswaffe.
Where the V2s were the ones where the British pilots had to like tip them out of the way, right? Am I getting that one right?
It was a Nazi
I know that, yeah, because they weren't that fast, but it was a completely new technology.
I don't know.
You mean like with their plane?
So they have
could
to fly
in and
alongside it, and then you tip it with your wing, and it's just enough to veer it out off its course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't really that effective from what I hear.
They just had a lot of them, and no one else did.
They poured their research and development into the V2 program.
That was part of Hitler's problem, is he always wanted to focus on very sci-fi-esque at the time futuristic ideas instead of what was practical, and this was one of them. It didn't do the damage to London and England that was worth all the money they put into it.
Yeah, they wanted to just rocket England all day, every day, and then the nukes got invented.
So everyone's saying V1 is the missile that I'm talking about. It's the predecessor to the V2. Is the one the British would just tip out of the way with their own planes.
Have you seen? I think the V3 then was the giant gun, right? The giant cannon that went for several miles. And like I said, it's a sci-fi. Oh wow, it's a giant gun.
Are you talking about the one that was on a rail?
Yeah, yeah. And didn't they just blow it up or whatever? You can just bomb it.
The V3 cannon, the German super gun.
Yeah,
I've never heard of this before.
Heard of it either.
They had this big cannon that was ridiculously big. It had to be moved on rail, and it was not practical. Whoa. I mean, anything that you have to that has to be like on rail to move, that's completely impractical. Yeah.
And it's easy to bomb. It's easy to destroy.
Yeah. Before like World War I, when they just had hot air balloons and stuff, they were extremely effective. Artillery on rail, but now with air support, they're just targets.
Yeah.
I mean, not just targets, but they're easily targetable from space. And I talk with a lot of confidence about military tech. I'm not a military guy. I just want to put that out there. I defer to anyone with combat experience or that's an expert on the weaponry, because I love hearing about this stuff.
It's crazy.
I survived the meme war.
2,754 civilians killed in London by V2 attacks and 6,523 injured.
But see, that's not really a lot when you consider the total death during the war and the amount of money that went into that versus the return. That was the problem. Yeah,
2 people per rocket. It's per rocket.
Right. That's not a really good investment at all. They'd be better off putting rocks on blimps and just having the rocks fall.
I mean, you're right when we say that.
Japan did this with bombs.
Yeah, if you think about the the amount of money that was spent in Iraq, like every time that they shot a Hellfire at like a goat herder, because it would just be some random dude that got paid, whatever, $100 or whatever to go up on the hill with his old 1910 Springfield rifle or whatever, take a couple pot shots at the base, because the point is to just harass the Americans, and the Americans' reply was call in the helicopters, and they just started lighting up the whole hillside.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.